Welcome in, everyone. Ready for another deep dive.
Absolutely, let's do it.
This time, we're tackling a classic excerpts from The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
A fantastic choice.
Yeah, even just glancing through it beforehand, I was struck by how relevant Covey's ideas still feel.
Oh, absolutely. And what makes it even more compelling is that Covey wasn't just some, theorist.
Right.
He worked directly with so many people, individuals, and organizations.
Yeah.
He saw firsthand what actually helped people succeed, and not just in their careers, but like in every aspect of life.
So it's less about those quick tips and tricks and more about those fundamental principles.
Exactly. And he starts by really challenging us to examine our paradigms.
Paradigms.
Yeah, basically the mental maps, the lenses that we use to see and understand the world.
Okay.
Covey argues that these deep-seated perceptions, these paradigms, shape our decisions way more than we even realize.
It's like we're all wearing these invisible glasses that kind of distort how we see things.
That's a great way to put it.
But then, how do we even know if our own paradigms, if our glasses are accurate?
Well, think of that classic optical illusion, the one with the old woman and the young woman.
Oh, yeah.
Two people can look at the same exact image, but their preconceived notions, their existing paradigms, influence what they see.
Right.
And Covey argues that this happens all the time in life, not just with visual stuff. Our paradigms impact how we interpret events, relationships, everything.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So, maybe someone with a scarcity mindset might overlook an opportunity that someone with an abundance mindset would jump on.
Exactly. And Covey makes this distinction between what he calls the character ethic and the personality ethic.
Okay.
The character ethic is all about building your core principles, things like integrity, honesty, fairness.
Right.
The personality ethic, on the other hand, often focuses on more superficial techniques, like trying to manipulate situations to get what you want, kind of like a short-term game.
So is the difference between, being genuine versus putting on a good show?
Yeah. But isn't there a time and a place for both? I mean, sometimes you gotta, play the game a little bit.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but Covey's point is that lasting effectiveness, real success, comes from aligning your actions with those deep principles. Think of it like a tree, right?
Okay.
If the roots are shallow, any storm can knock it over. But strong roots, those core principles, allow it to weather anything.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah.
So for our listeners out there, the question becomes, what are your core principles?
Right.
And are they leading you towards the kind of life that you actually want?
That's the real heart of it. And this leads us to another one of Covey's big ideas, the power of proactivity.
Okay.
He even uses this interesting word, responsible, to emphasize that we always have a choice in how we react to things.
I got to admit, I used to kind of roll my eyes at that whole be more proactive thing. It felt a little too rah-rah, you know?
Yeah.
But Covey, he digs deeper than that, right?
Definitely. He introduces this really helpful concept, the circle of concern versus the circle of influence.
Okay.
The circle of concern is all that stuff that we worry about, but often can't really control, like the economy, politics, other people's drama.
Oh, man, I live in my circle of concern way too much, especially when I'm doom scrolling the news.
We all do, right? It's easy to get sucked in.
Yeah.
But the circle of influence, that's about focusing on what we can control. Our own choices, actions, attitudes. Proactivity is about spending more of your time and energy there.
So even if I'm stuck in traffic, I can choose to get frustrated, or I can choose to use that time to, I don't know, listen to a podcast.
Exactly, you got it.
Right.
It reminds me of Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor. Even in a concentration camp, he found that he still had the freedom to choose his response, to find meaning in his suffering.
Wow, that's a powerful example. It really drives the point home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for our listeners,
Mm-hmm.
how do we actually apply this, in our everyday lives?
Yeah.
Because it's easy to get overwhelmed by all the demands on our time.
That's where Covey's habit 3 comes in. Put first things first.
Okay.
He gives us this time management matrix, a way to prioritize based on what's truly important, not just what feels urgent in the moment.
Okay, let's dive into that matrix, because I think a lot of us struggle with feeling busy, but not really accomplishing what matters most.
For sure. Okay, so picture this. It's a matrix, right? 4 quadrants.
Okay.
Quadrant 1 is for the stuff that's both urgent and important.
Got it.
Like you've got a deadline breathing down your neck,
Yeah.
or, some kind of family emergency pops up.
Right, those got to get handled.
Exactly. Those are the drop everything moments.
Hmm.
Then we've got quadrant 2, And this is where things get interesting. This is for the important stuff, but it's not urgent.
Right.
Things like, I don't know, working towards your long-term goals, building relationships, personal development, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. The things we know we should do.
Exactly. But, it's easy to push them aside. Then you've got quadrant 3. Urgent, but not really important. Think those constant interruptions.
Oh, yeah.
Unnecessary meetings. Stuff that's pulling at you but isn't really moving the needle.
Right. Those are the tricky ones.
And then, of course, there's quadrant 4, the time wasters.
Yeah.
Things that are neither urgent nor important.
I think we all have a little bit of quadrant 4 in our lives.
I know I do. But, the point of this matrix is to help us see where we're spending our time and energy so we can make more conscious choices.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we actually, shift our focus to that quadrant 2? It's easy to say, but harder to do.
Right. I mean, life just gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, Covey would say, it's about making those deliberate choices. It's about making sure your schedule actually reflects your values. And, one thing that can be helpful, start by figuring out your big rocks.
Big rocks.
Yeah, those are those key activities, those quadrant 2 things that are really going to make a difference in your life. If you hit those, everything else kind of falls into place. Once you've identified those big rocks, actually block off time for them in your calendar. Treat them like they're an important meeting.
That's a really good tip. I like that a lot. Treat your personal growth, those big rocks, with the same respect that you would a work commitment.
Right.
I like that. So for our listeners, the challenge is to find those big rocks, identify those key activities, and then schedule them in. But Covey, he doesn't just stop at personal effectiveness, right?
Absolutely not.
He talks about how we interact with other people, too.
Right. He shifts from what he calls private victory to public victory. And one of the most powerful ideas in this whole section is this concept of emotional bank accounts.
Oh, yeah. I love this analogy. It's like every interaction we have with someone is either a deposit or a withdrawal.
Exactly. Think about the things that build trust and connection, right?
Yeah.
Being a good listener, keeping your promises, showing empathy. Those are all deposits. But then, being disrespectful, breaking commitments, dismissing someone's feelings, those are withdrawals.
Yeah, totally.
And just like with a regular bank account, if you keep making withdrawals, eventually you're going to be in trouble.
Right, you're going to be overdrawn.
Exactly. Covey would say that strong relationships, they require those consistent deposits. And it's not always about those big, grand gestures either.
Okay.
Sometimes it's those small, everyday acts of kindness and consideration that make the biggest difference.
It reminds me of that story that Covey tells about the dad who took his son to, every Major League Baseball stadium.
Oh, yeah.
Even though he wasn't a huge baseball fan himself.
Right.
That's, a massive deposit. It's a huge deposit in the emotional bank account.
Exactly. But what about those times when conflict comes up? Those disagreements, arguments.
Yeah.
How do we handle those in a way that actually makes the relationship stronger instead of weaker?
Right, because those are tough.
Yeah. That's where Covey introduces this idea of win-win thinking. It's about moving away from that I win, you lose mentality.
Okay.
And instead, you're trying to find solutions where both people feel heard and respected.
So it's not just about compromise then?
No, not really.
Because compromise is everyone gets a little bit of what they want, but maybe nobody's completely happy.
Right. You're just meeting in the middle. But win-win is about being creative. It's about collaborating to find a solution that truly benefits both parties.
Okay, so you're going beyond compromise.
You're looking for something better for both people.
Yeah.
It's about, moving beyond competition.
Right.
And tapping into the power of what Covey calls synergy.
And that's where things get really exciting. Covey talks about how 1 + 1 can actually equal 3 or more.
Right.
When people truly collaborate effectively, that's the magic of synergy, right?
Yeah. It's when the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
But how do we actually achieve that? I mean, it sounds amazing, but how do we do it?
Well, Covey lays out some specific steps. And it all starts with seeking first to understand the other person's perspective.
So it's not just about waiting for your turn to talk.
No.
You're really trying to see the world through their eyes.
You got to really listen. Try to put yourself in their shoes.
Right.
Even if you disagree with them.
Man, that could be hard.
Oh, it definitely takes effort.
Yeah.
But once you understand where they're coming from, then you can start to value the differences in your perspectives.
So instead of seeing those differences as obstacles, you see them as strengths.
Exactly. Because different viewpoints, they can bring fresh ideas, new solutions. And then once you've done that, you understand each other's perspectives, you can move into brainstorming.
Okay.
You start coming up with those creative solutions that go beyond what either of you could have imagined on your own.
So for our listeners out there, think about a challenge that you're facing, something where collaboration is key. What would it look like to approach that with this win-win mindset?
Exactly. How can you find that solution that benefits everybody?
Yeah, what amazing solutions might emerge if you tapped into that power of synergy?
Right. That's a really good question. And, that leads us to Covey's final habit, the one that's, I think, often overlooked, but so crucial for lasting effectiveness.
Right. Habit 7, sharpen the saw. Such a great image. Like, you can't keep cutting down trees with a dull saw, right?
Exactly. So how do we sharpen our own saws, so to speak? How do we keep ourselves sharp and effective?
Yeah, how do we do that?
Well, Covey, he breaks it down into these 4 key dimensions: physical, spiritual, mental, and social or emotional.
Okay.
And what's important here, all 4 of these dimensions are interconnected.
Right.
You neglect one, it's going to eventually impact your effectiveness in the others.
Okay, let's break those down a little bit. What does it look like to sharpen the saw physically?
Well, it's pretty straightforward. It's about taking care of your body. Things like exercise, getting enough sleep, eating healthy food. Think of it like giving your body the fuel it needs to run properly.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, what about sharpening the saw spiritually? What does that look like?
This is about connecting with your core values, your sense of purpose, what gives your life meaning.
Right.
For some people, it might be religious practice. For others, it could be spending time in nature, or maybe it's meditation or engaging in some kind of creative pursuit.
All of that story Covey tells about the doctor who prescribes a day at the beach for his patient.
Oh, yeah.
Who was all burnt out.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to disconnect and recharge.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to reconnect with what brings you joy and clarity.
Exactly. Then there's mental sharpening. This is about expanding your mind, continuing to learn, to grow,
Right.
reading, taking classes, having those thought-provoking conversations, anything that keeps your mind engaged and challenged.
I like it. And finally, social emotional sharpening. What does that involve?
Well, it's all about nurturing your relationships.
Developing your emotional intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
building healthy connections with the people around you. It's about practicing empathy, kindness, compassion, both towards yourself and toward others.
So it's like we need to be taking care of all 4 of these dimensions to really thrive.
Yeah.
Physical, spiritual, mental, and social emotional. But the challenge, at least for me, is finding the time.
Yeah, that's understandable. Life
Yeah.
gets busy.
Right.
Covey would say it's not about finding the time, it's about making the time.
Okay.
You got to see self-renewal as an investment,
Right.
not as like an indulgence. Because when you sharpen the saw, when you take care of yourself, you're actually increasing your ability to be effective in all areas of life.
That makes sense. It's like we put off self-care because we're too busy, but taking care of ourselves actually makes us more productive in the long run.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered so much in this deep dive into Covey's 7 habits. What stands out to you as the most valuable takeaway for our listeners?
I think the biggest thing is that real effectiveness, it starts from the inside out.
It's about aligning your actions with your values,
Right.
proactively creating the life you want,
Yeah.
and building those win-win relationships.
I love that. So it's not about manipulating situations or trying to control everything around you.
Right.
It's about developing that inner strength and integrity
Yeah, those core principles.
that helps you navigate any situation.
Exactly. And, it's not a one-time thing either. It's not like you reach some level of effectiveness and then you're done.
Right.
Covey would say it's an ongoing process. You're constantly growing and improving.
So it's about the journey.
Exactly. It's about becoming the best version of yourself.
That's inspiring, but also a little daunting.
It is a journey, but the cool thing is we get to choose the path. We decide which principles resonate with us,
Right.
and we focus on those areas where we want to grow.
I love that. So for our listeners out there, think about it. What principle from Covey's work really speaks to you? And what one small step can you take this week? Just one small step to actually put it into action.
Remember, even those small changes, those tiny steps, they can make a huge difference over time. The key is to just start somewhere, take that first step,
Right.
and keep moving forward.
Keep sharpening that saw. This has been such a fascinating deep dive.
It really has.
I hope you found it valuable,
Yeah.
and I hope you'll take these principles and really make them your own.
Yeah, they're powerful stuff.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep diving deep.